hey, get off me. Okay, just get off. You're good enough. Okay. You don't have to copy another master drawing. You don't have to, just be you. And then the work began to actually tell a story. The colors began to flow in a way that I didn't ever imagine they would. And I began to go to places in the world as a
Yeah.
kind of.
I'm trying to build my space, to
Mm-hmm.
get into my mindset every time I get into the studio.
Good. That's important to kind of have a space that feels like that feels different from the rest of your house if you happen to have a studio inside your house, and if you don't have a studio in your house. I don't work at home. I work in a separate space. It's about a mile and a half from home. So because of the fact that it's away, I can easily get into the mindset. I don't like to work I don't like to live in the same space that I work in.
Yeah.
Because I'll always just tinker. I'll always want to work if I'm living in the same spot.
That's the problem I'm having right now.
So, when I leave the studio, I shut the door and it's like I effectively stop being Martin the artist and I start being Martin the human being.
That's the way it works. Like you separate like both worlds completely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking about art when I'm at home. Sorry if I'm eating.
Yeah, no problem. I have my coffee here, so.
Yeah, but I don't have my materials there that I can work, so I have to think about what I left, which is nice to. I like that arrangement, and it's a habit of mine to actually work right up until the moment that I have to clean and go home, because what I do at that last bit of time, I have to leave it. I can't fix it. So I will sometimes do something that's quite drastic in a painting or drawing, and I have to leave. So I have to think about what I left. And so I feel that a good amount of my best creativity comes when I'm not working on the painting or the drawing, when I'm thinking about it. I've made some pretty good decisions by not being in front of my canvas or panel or paper sometimes, because I have to worry about that.
That's interesting.
So I like the sense of anticipation. Like if I work on a painting and I do something very drastic and I want to keep working on it, but I have to get home, I have to leave it. So the whole time I'm at home, I'm thinking about it. Like I'm imagining like what I could do, what I should do, and then I sleep on it and I come back and then I will make a pretty, I think, straightforward decision with the painting when I see it after not seeing it for, a night or a day or an evening.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages of not being in the space, not living in the same space that you work, is that you use more of your, I think, imagination.
Yeah, I know.
Then I think.
Yeah, maybe if you had the piece with you all the time, you would be making adjustment after adjustment.
Yeah.
Not letting
I probably.
Yeah, breathe.
I would.
Yeah.
Going to art school, that was one of the biggest things that I learned, because they give each student a studio space, and so I had to work in that space. And at the end of the day of class, I'd go home and I would think about it. So this was something that for 2 years I got used to, and so I never, after that, was able to work and live in the same space. And there's people that do that, like my girlfriend. She paints in the space that we live in, and she's able to work But for my personality, I feel like I need to kind of take a break. Sometimes you just have to take a break from the intensity of what you do. And I don't think that I'd be able to produce anything if I was in that close a proximity.
Yeah. So for how long have you been drawing and painting?
Probably as far as I can remember, since I was maybe 6, 5. But I didn't know what an artist was then. I really didn't know what an artist was until I graduated high school. I knew what an artist was, but I didn't think that it was something you can be or make a living. So I used drawing from my early youth up till high school as a escapist thing. Whenever I would draw something, it felt like I was able to be that thing. The things that I couldn't be or the things I was afraid of, I would draw. And that made me feel akin to that thing. And so I used drawing as like a protective. It was a thing that made reality happen more to me when I couldn't actually make reality happen.
Yeah.
So, I've been doing it since I was maybe 4 or 5.
Nice. Yeah, I can relate with that. The fact, I think I'm speaking about artists and people who draw too. It's a little bit of an escape, right? Escape from reality. I mean, when we are in a math class and we start drawing on a side of a paper, we are changing the reality at that time. We are like in some other other world. We are creating something else,
Yeah.
So, and I guess some of us fall in love with that feeling and made a profession out of that. But I wanted to ask you. You said you didn't know what was what meant to be an artist. So now I guess you know. So what do you think it means to be an artist? Is it a way? Is it a job? Is it a way of working? Is it being or having something to say to the world? So what's the difference between an artist and someone who draws or paints and is not an artist, maybe?
Well, speaking from my own experience, I think the easy answer to your question is I do it because it's just like a natural thing for me. It's like having another arm. It's having my arm or my fingers or my feet. I have to do it. It's just like a natural thing. The difference between an artist and someone who just does it is I think artists are. That's a tough question.
I know. No,
because I do want. Yeah, I do want to say something. I do want to actually say my answer, but I'm afraid that if I do say it, I'll cause a bit of problems.
Oh no!
I think that.
I mean, I can share mine too if you want. I have no problem.
Yeah, I'm a bit more. I'm a bit more nicer these days than I used to be. When I first started out, I was very allegiant to being an artist. That if you didn't think or feel or see things like an artist, I kind of was very angry at you. I was selfish.
I see.
Art was such a very important thing to me. I think because art really was, being an artist or just drawing or just being creative was the thing that helped me live, helped me survive through a lot of dark times, and it made me who I am. So I naturally am very, very protective of it. So I think that artists that make a living and making a go at it are probably the bravest because they're willing to, I think, fail and be themselves. And they're putting their life on the line, I think.
Yeah.
They really devote. It takes a lot of devotion to be who we are, because it's not easy. There's more, especially now with social media, and you have so many great artists that you can see now. Back in my day, you didn't have the ability to see so many great artists. So now when you go on Instagram and you look at all the artists, there's just so many. I don't think that I would have been able to have become who I am had I had such a exposure to so many great artists, because I would have completely thought, well, what's my point? This one and this one and this one and this one's doing, because when I was younger, I was very impressionable. But luckily, I had lived during the time where there wasn't a lot of exposure to so many great people. Those artists had always been there. They just were never visible.
Yeah.
So I think it just takes a lot of guts to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, absolutely. I think you're. I mean, I could add, or maybe
go ahead.
Just say that part of being an artist, I think, probably, I mean, it has to do with what you're doing, but you have to feel an artist. Nobody from the outside is going to tell you are or you are not. If you feel you're an artist, probably you are. And I think that with that it comes and I know this is a very common thing to hear or to say, and it's a cliche, but the struggle, there's no easy way of being an artist. I'm not saying you have to suffer, but there's definitely something with the struggle, When I tell my friends or whoever see me or think, oh, he has a very easy thing to do every day. He has to draw every day, that's easy. I mean, okay, I'm not a doctor, but believe me, I'm working with struggle, with failure constantly. And I'm sure you too, and I'm sure every artist is. It's part of the path, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that a true definition of an artist is one who faces their own internal fears and they move forward. Either fears or you're willing to kind of face yourself in the mirror every day, I think. The art is just a byproduct of more about how you relate to your reality and try to do it in the most clear and honest way you can. And that can be quite difficult to do that on so many levels. Yeah. And I have such respect for people that make a go for it, who do it. And when they stand up for their work. Like if they do a painting and someone says, this is, and they're not fazed by it. That's an artist, because they're just, look, if you don't like my painting, there's the door. This is my world. And you may not agree with it, and I'm not going to be angry at you. Just go look for another artist. An artist is one who's not afraid to put their, open their insides up and let the world see it.
Yeah. So now speaking about what you're doing right now, I mean, all the figures we are all seeing on Instagram, the figures, the plein air paintings, from time to time, just a face, but just from time to time. And most of the times I see no faces, no hands. It's amazing how you, one of the things we all, I think, or expresses a lot of emotion and are the hands, the face, but you manage yourself to create a whole thing with just a torso maybe, or a leg, or a triangle, or some straight lines. So so tell us about what's your inspiration or your motivation, or what do you see on that figure that spikes your imagination and your creativity?
I think a fair bit of that comes from the sitter. My relationship with the person that has posed for the drawing. So I like to develop like an artistic relationship with specific people that I draw. So most of what you all see on Instagram of the drawings are usually of models that I know quite well and I've been working with for a bit of time. It's very difficult for me to work from a photo reference of a model I've never worked with. Um, the whole idea of the extrication of the face and the hands is the fact that they're such powerful symbols for the very reason you mentioned. They're very expressive, and to me, the elimination of those specific parts of the form are to stop a sense of that expression and to give the viewer more of a feeling of the body as being an expressive element. I've recently begun to include faces and hands in my pieces, and quite honestly, I think it is because some people have mentioned, why don't you draw faces and why don't you draw hands? So I'm affected by people's opinions. I'm going to definitely approach that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's by any fear of not knowing how to draw them in, faces and hands, because in art school I was quite good at them. Actually thrived on doing portraiture and drawing hands. But I think over time it evolved out of getting away from the most expressive elements of the form, which are the obvious things, and to try to bring the viewer into the idea of the figure, the body as an expressive element in itself. And I just love the form as an energy. But in the back of my head, I'm beginning to kind of become concerned about adding those elements that I haven't been exploring as much as I should. So I'm excited about that, about this kind of evolution of including the whole form now in my work.
So how do you decide what to leave out of the drawing? Because that's a $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
Because when you said you know the models you work with, and I mean you have the model right there, and you are seeing all the I don't know, just to name a few, you see a shoulder and the elbow with the hand and all that shape of the arm, making the whole shape and ending with the finger. Like, how do you decide, okay, I won't draw that whole shape, but I'm going to draw this other. I won't draw that beautiful light she has on the face, but I'm going to draw the belly button. Like, how do you decide, where are you?
That's a good one. Yeah, I love that question. It's not hard for me to answer at all. I think it, again, depends on what the model presents when they come into the studio. But I think the big part of it is the gesture. I'm very keyed in on movement and speed. And when I'm drawing, actually not being conscious of drawing. Just working as fast as I can and getting the whole figure on a sheet of paper. And I think by the mere fact that I'm working so fast, I make those decisions. There's specific elements of a pose that a model will present that will be the key element of a pose. And I've developed an affinity to lock in on that key element very, very quickly. And I think it's just because of the many years of drawing and just the sheer speed that I work at. I work very, very fast. I think working fast is just an evolution of being afraid, not knowing what I'm doing, and coming to terms with just the complexity of a form. When a model gets up on the model riser and begins to move, it's the most frightening thing on earth. I still feel frightened when a model poses, especially a model that it has very, very complicated poses. asymmetrical poses. And I'm full of just anticipation and fright. So when she gets up or he gets up on the model riser, I just start moving without thinking. And I have to do a great volume of gestures before I begin to actually lock in.
Mm.
So on average, I'll do maybe 50 gestures, and each one of them I rub out.
Wow.
And as the more gestures I do, the more accustomed I get to the model, the more I know their choreography. It's a wonderful thing about drawing the figure very fast. You can key in on a person's emotional state very quickly. So I have all of these different qualities I'm looking for when a model comes in for me when I do the gesture. And I think this ability to edit a format is based entirely on that principle of what I just told you. And I think that's kind of it. Each pose is different. There's always going to be a different part of that form that I'm going to lock into. I think that's why I do it so much, because it's never the same.
Yeah.
I never know what the model's going to bring me. And I love the sense of not knowing. I'm absolutely obsessed with danger and with accident and with the critical response that comes through something that is just natural.
Yeah. I remember. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not good. I think Francis Bacon called it the brutality of fact.
Uh-huh.
How something so simple can be so brutal in its simplicity. Life is so intense. You know, you live, but the world goes on around you. You know, I remember I broke up with a girlfriend years ago. And it was in a very dark period in my life at that time. And I remember looking out a window and seeing a bird just chirping and I just noticed that the world didn't give a care about what was happening with me. The world just keeps going, and you're in your place.
That's right.
And you could either stay in your place or go with the world. And that little bird chirping in my dark point in my life was so intense and so brutal, and it was just as powerful as a gunshot to my heart. You know, it's like, here I am suffering, and that bird has this will to kind of the world is going on, and I'll be dead and it'll keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The world, and most, I mean, these days, the world is crazier than ever, I believe. But it reflects a bit of what you're saying, that we think, or many people think, that the world has stopped with all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true. I mean, life goes on, the world keeps spinning, time goes by, you know. Never stops.
I think that's why so many artists are very productive right now, because they're seeing the world as like this fatal thing right now, which it is. Like, the world is, I think it's always that way. And so I don't think it's escaping from it. I think they're getting energy from the fact that it is doing what it is. You know, we're having global warming. We're having these horrible, despotic people popping up. We're having all these things. It just seems like, you know, the ice sheets are melting, birds are dying, you know, and to me, it's like this thing of live. Life will go on. It's still going on. And artists are we're the bulwarks to that. We're the ones that raise that flag and say life is going on. It always will be. You know, you're here, a human being, living on a planet that's spinning at thousands of miles an hour in space, moving at incredible speeds that we could never fathom, full of black holes and dark voids and comets and meteors and solar bursts, and could be supernovas. And you're worried about a little human thing.
Yeah.
We'll be dead. We're nothing. If Betelgeuse or one of those large close to us stars were to supernova, we would be, and it's like, they're hundreds of light years away, we would still get killed from it. All it takes is a solar burst. And I think when you take into consideration these things, it makes, life much richer, I think. And, I'm just, here I am, Martin. I'm going to be 50 soon. I don't have much time left. Half of my life is over.
Oh.
And I'm happy that I am fruitful. I can smell food. I can draw the way I draw. I think that's the long answer to your question.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of that is behind this editorial process.
Yeah. I think, or at least how I'm living this. I'm trying to enjoy each time a bit more, very little things, and I try to how you say, like if it was a chocolate, like to let the chocolate melt in my mouth for as long as possible. So for instance, this is a very small detail, or maybe a very small thing, but for instance, when I receive like maybe a nice comment on Instagram or on YouTube saying thank you for sharing this, like I try not to read and think about other thing right away. Like I try to to let that melt like the chocolate, at least for a while, and maybe to take some energy from there to keep going and keep producing.
Sure. Totally. That's how it is.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate that we have that ability to think that way.
Yeah.
Just having that gift to take life like that into little bits and chew them and let them melt is like the biggest gift that a human can have in a very whirlwind-like universe that we live in. If you talked to Martin like 20 years ago, he wouldn't be saying all this. He wouldn't know any of this. I had no idea, Juan, about any of this existential stuff when I just wanted to draw things that looked like the things I drew them.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I had just simple demands, and by the grace of the models that I've worked with and the people that I've studied with that have helped me along the way, they've given me this opportunity to evolve into this person who can, the art is a point of departure for that. The art I'm beginning to kind of think is not really what it's always been about. It's always been about me and life. The art is a byproduct of my experience as a human being on this planet, And I think the more that I lock into that frame of thought, the more the work will sing better.
Yeah.
The more you let go of art, the more it'll tell you things. I'm seeing that now as I'm getting older, that because I spent the better half of my life training and learning how to draw very beautifully. And I realized how much of a stranglehold that had on me. I used it as a cushion. And once I let go of it and trusted myself and said, Martin, you don't have to do work for people to like you. You don't have to do work beautifully for anybody. You have to do it for yourself, okay? Because in the end of the day, when all the lights are out and everybody's asleep and you're by yourself, it's you. And this was a very short period of time when I began to think about this, say about 10 years ago. I began to go into this evolution of thought, and I began to just let go of my art, and it just began to do things. It's like my art had been waiting for me to just, hey, get off me. Okay, just get off. You're good enough. Okay, you don't have to copy another master drawing. You don't have to, you know, just be you. And then the work began to actually tell a story. The colors began to flow in a way that I didn't ever imagine they would. And then I began to go to places in the world. People were inviting me to teach. And yeah, it was hard work. I got there. But I think a big deal of it was just trusting who I was and letting go. If you hold life too hard, you don't live. I mean, you have to realize you're going to fall and skin your knee and get hurt. That's all part of life.
I remember you telling me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but that you have to be willing to destroy your piece, right? Or destroy your art. So how, I mean, when or how did you learn that lesson? Was at art college, or?
Yeah, it was. I want to keep the answer simple, because it is simple. It was an art school. Some people would say, well, Martin, you've known it your whole life. You just needed art school to have it come out of you. And it's like, that may be true. But I really think it was art school. You know, there are some people that say you don't need to go to art school. You can just be an artist. And that can be true. But from my experience, I needed art school to kind of pull that thorn out of my body and say, this is how you got to do it. You know, but art school was absolutely essential in my development into who I am. As I began to see people who had this beautiful academic training throw their drawings against the wall and push them. And that was absolutely impressive. I was watching someone sacrifice something for something that was intangible, that was bigger than them, that was bigger than the drawing. And that was bravery. It wasn't so much their drawing or their painting, it was how brave they were. And that was absolutely impressive to me. It was very sobering to see that. And the product that they came out with when they did that was just what we would call it transcended the medium. You know, it wasn't just paint, it felt like the thing they painted. And that was a word that was used at my art school. The word felt. If someone came up to your painting that you had struggled over and destroyed and pushed and pulled, because you were thinking about a feeling, and you pushed it to the point that it was like, and hope, you know, you came out with something that you felt came as close as you could to the idea of why you painted it. If someone came up to that painting and said, that's a very felt painting, I mean, that was it. That was like the biggest compliment you could ever get, you know. And so being in a 4-year program with people that were doing that was that experience that helped me learn how to just let go more. And that didn't happen until maybe 5 or 6 years after I graduated art school.
Okay, yeah.
So I kind of knew it then, but I still was a little bit hesitant to do it. You know, I was like, I was holding on to the way I knew how to do things. And then, of course, you know, there's things outside of being an artist that happen in your life that will help kind of extricate it, like, you know, not having any money and paying your student loans and getting fired from your job and breaking up with a girlfriend. And I mean, all those things in life kind of begin to pull the thorn out pull the thorn of thought out, and then you really use it. And that's kind of what happened to me after I graduated art school. It was a hard time, a hard transition. It wasn't until maybe 10 years after I graduated that I began to get a foothold and become a working artist living off of my work. So it was a slow transition into that. And yeah, as soon as I began to just let go, then I began to make a living off my work. And it was up to me. I had to do it. It was something that I had to evolve into. I think it's trust in yourself, and love of what you do that will help. The more that you lock into those things, the more you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
That's nice. So how?
Yeah, I have a tremendous love of what I do. Not the product, but the fact that I do it. I love the fact that I do it, and that's more important than the product. Because if I love the process and I love being an artist, not what I do.
Yeah.
Not what I do takes care of itself.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. You're talking about, yeah, exactly, the process and being right there, right? Like living that moment.
Process is everything, not what it's going to look like, but what's happening while you're doing it. That electric feeling you're getting when you squeeze the paint on the palette and mix it, and you're like, I'm going to put a leg down, and you put it, and it feels like the leg. That moment is what you live for.
Yeah. And once
the action of doing it.
Yeah. So how do you live that moment? What do you feel on that moment? How do you prepare yourself for having a good process, maybe? Or
just draw every day, paint every day. You have to be present in the studio. You can't think about it. You have to just do it. I have a very obsessive drawing practice. I draw every day, at least 4 or 5 hours straight.
Wow.
Every day. A lot of what I do, I don't post, but I'll draw and rub out and draw and rub out, and then I'll work on my abstracts and push paint and scrape it down and get rid of it. I probably scrape more paint off of my panels than I actually put down, and that to me is very important. It's not wasted paint. Wasted paint is when you just let it sit in the tube and don't do anything with it. Okay, so just coming into the studio and just physically pushing my mediums gets me into that moment. I'm waiting for that moment to happen by doing that. And that's how I get it, but I can't come in and just, I'm going to get the feeling. No, it's very elusive, that locking into the moment. And the only way is to just get into your studio, shut the door, and be present. I think it was Chuck Close, I think, who said that. He had a saying, some people wait for inspiration, the rest of us just get to work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm paraphrasing it. He said it much better, but it is like that. You got to get in and just get in the studio and just pound charcoal, pound paint. Even if you just go to your panel or your paper and you're just like making stupid marks. I mean, that is important.
Yeah, I think you said two things that are very, that are not obvious during these days. One, you said that a lot of what you do is not uploaded on Instagram or on internet, which for most young kids or the young guys that are around there, and we all are there on Instagram, we think, and that's a bit of the illusion of social media, right? Like everything we produce, we show to the
Mhm.
world. And I believe the true what we true well when we really learn something is not there, very obviously shown on the internet or Instagram. I believe and this I of course this is a very well known thing, but it's true that we learn from our failures and not from
Mhm.
drawing is exactly like we wanted. It's like, okay, I did everything like it should do. I believe when we do some really messed up drawing that we learn, okay, this felt wrong. I didn't like the result, but this part it's like very here there is value, or I like enjoy this part. So I believe that, as you said before, like being willing to destroy your art to try new things on a drawing, that's and we are talking again about the theory of the accident, right? Like we have to be open and willing to destroy to find a gem, like to find
Mhm.
that sweet spot. And the other
Mhm.
thing, so one was that you're not showing everything, and the other one was, I think I forgot. uh,
Mhm.
them. Well, it will come to my
It'll
mind
come
in a
to
while. Yeah, but it's oh yeah, here it is. When you said
you.
here it is, it didn't take long. Yeah. I was thinking, I play the guitar and I've been playing for I'm 30 years old. I've been playing for 20, and I was studying guitar when the internet wasn't around yet. So I used to play guitar 8 hours a day easily, you know. And I think that was because I didn't have that much to do, or to I couldn't, look at that many musicians at the same time, and I couldn't hear uh, I don't know, 10,000 songs, one after the other, of different albums, different guitarists. So I used to practice 8 hours a day. And you said minutes ago that now, on these days in which we are all on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Netflix, everywhere, like you still are spending 4 or 5 hours simply drawing.
Mhm.
So I think that's very I believe that's very, very unique on these days.
Yeah, it's just I'm from the old school where I have to do it. I just have to. I just feel connected when I'm doing it for 4 hours, at least 4 hours a day. And some days it's longer than that, but I think the least amount of time I spend is four. Um, um, but it's a challenge to do that because there's just so much available. I think that creativity, or the ability to do something, a good deal of it comes from silence. You have to kind of really be away from everything to kind of have a frank talk with yourself and think about things. When you have too much distraction, it's not really you. You're not there. You're looking at life through your influences. So I think it's a little detrimental, especially for the younger artists these days. I couldn't even imagine. Well, I probably could imagine, but in a way, I couldn't imagine how difficult it is to be an artist who works in a very traditional way with so much manufactured images, and the speed of life is like in your lap more now than it ever has been. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate that I still have that ability to not get too caught up in, in looking at so many people. Um, I do it now. I do it, when I'm in the studio and I'm painting, I go through Instagram and I do a search and see all these great people that can draw the figure and portraits and paintings. I look through it, and then like an hour will go by, like stop it, put it down, and go paint. Yeah, they're good, but they're not in your studio. This is your work. Right?
Yeah.
So it's being able to just put it down and just paint or draw. So
Yeah.
I keep looking at this abstract I'm working on. Like today is the day that I got to do something to it, because I will use paint, I'll use color and paint not as a element of the thing that I see, but I use those things as I use colors sometimes and the marks as ends in themselves to create problems. Paint as a vehicle to disrupt your sense of thinking so you can continue moving. This is something that I learned by reading and studying the work of Francis Bacon. This is a great book. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah.
It's called
Interviews with Francis.
Interviews. Really great book.
Uh-huh.
And I have a clean copy. I've had at least 2 or 3 copies of this book in my life. And it was introduced to me during art school. And Francis Bacon is very big on that, this whole idea. When you read his interviews, it's a lot about it. He treats painting like gambling, playing Russian roulette, things like that. And so I've taken a fair bit of that into my practice. Not as eccentric and strange as him, but painting is a language within itself, devoid of the subject you're working on, to communicate with itself in terms of color, but also to get your sense of thinking moving forward. So there's a little bit of Diebenkorn in there too. He used paint that way, where he would use the physicality of paint to push him forward, And that's more in my abstract work that you see it, and not so much in my figurative things that you see mostly. I don't really post too many of the abstractions because they're kind of personal. They're kind of mine. I think they're really my artwork.
Whoa.
The more abstracted stuff, not so much the figurative things I like. I really, really love. That's my tradition. It ties me in. It's my gateway drug. But my abstraction is like, it's where I live. And I don't post them. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because it's my little
bit
of
personal,
heaven. Yeah, they are, and I love them. And I post them every now and then. I'll kind of give people on Instagram a little taste.
So we are not seeing the real thing then, right?
Probably not. No, you're not.
Nice.
At some point, that will evolve into more of abstraction, which will always have a tie into the figure. There's always a figurative element in my abstraction. My hope is as I continue evolving as a painter or an artist, is to begin to reveal more of that to the world and go more away from my involvement with the figure. The figure has been the thing that has kept me afloat. But at some point, I'll have to make that eventual, I'm looking forward to the eventual release of the form. And I think I told you before, my ultimate dream is to create paintings that feel like there's a human presence there. Without necessarily using a figure in a real sense in the painting. I don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to look like. But that's kind of like in the back of my head, that I want to do that. I want to do paintings that when you look at it, it just like, wow, there feels like there's a form there. But you didn't put a figure there, Martin. But why do I feel like there's people in it? Or a presence of someone?
Yeah.
That painting exists. Those paintings exist 30, 20 years down the line, hopefully before I die. I'll do one painting that is a summary of my life.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's more than one. Maybe, hopefully it'll be a body of work. But that's that's kind of the dream. And the only the way that I'm going to get to that one is I just got to keep painting.
Yeah. And
I gotta.
I believe you are going there, you know. I believe
Yeah.
you're in the process. I mean,
Yeah.
you are playing, at least for what I see, on your work, you're always playing with that feeling of knowing what's there and what's not. And
Yeah.
when we see one of your figures, or again, at least when I see one of your figures, I'm like, okay, I feel and I understand there. I mean, that's the shoulder, or there's an arm, that's a leg. But when you look closely, you don't. Maybe you don't even see it. You know, like
Hmm.
it's there, but it's not, and it's like you feel the highlight or the illusion of light, but it's just a little bit of pastel, you know.
Hmm.
And it has, and I told you this before too, that your work has that double thing, like that contrast between a beautiful female figure, uh, with all the shapes, and what we said before, like the destruction and the abstraction and the emptiness of the,
Yeah.
you know, the loose pastel. So you, on
Yes.
your pieces, I believe we see how those two things live at the same time.
Right. Right. And so everybody's beginning to see that slow evolution of me devolving my forms. Uh, and I get people that say, well, you don't like women, that's why you don't put heads in your figures. You cut the hands off because I can't tell you how many times I get that. You know,
Oh,
I don't, I just, and you're going to get that. Anytime you paint a figure, you're going to be accused of something. There's
yeah,
always something wrong. And that comes with being a figurative artist. I can't think of any figurative artist that I know who hasn't been accused of something.
yeah, yeah, of
It was,
course.
yeah, and I think that's kind of a rite of passage. I think every artist is going to, their character is going, will be judged by the fact that they paint people.
Yeah,
You know, it's just, it doesn't happen to me often, but it does happen every now and then. And whenever that happens, I don't get angry. I just like, yes, I'm doing the right job. I'm doing it.
how's that?
I'm happy because it's like it's because it's pissed somebody off.
Yeah, yeah,
And when you're an artist and you piss somebody off, you know you're doing the right thing.
yeah, absolutely,
And
yeah,
that's not and it's not by overtly pissing somebody off. You're not going to paint. I'm going to get people like no. That's like the wrong way to do it. If
yeah,
you're just being yourself and doing the paintings that you love or drawings that you love, and someone comes out and says, you know what, I don't think that I did something right
yeah,
because it has affected somebody.
yeah,
And it's made me feel bad about what I do, which means we're good. But the important thing is holistically that it's kind of upset your world a little bit. It makes you look at things a bit different. So whenever I get a comment like that, I love it.
yeah,
You know, I mean, bring it on. You know,
yeah,
like the whole idea of like not putting heads in hands was born out of actually my girlfriend and several people that I admire who mentioned it in a very non-threatening way. And it's made me, you know, I was like, no, I'm not going to put heads in hands because people tell me and whatever. And but he evolved into like, you know what? I think it would be good to put heads and hands together because they're just as expressive as the whole body. So it's been like this gradual, you know. I had to think about it and let me add these things because I wanted to add them, not because someone told me to do it.
Yeah.
So there's that, you know.
So if you had to give an advice to a young artist that's starting, probably has ended art school and is starting to work on his or her thing, what would the advice be?
My advice, um, just keep doing it. Don't stop. And just paint the things you love, draw the things you love. Um, be uh, don't be so critical about what you do. And it's hard when you're young. All these things that I'm saying are usually not something a young person can do. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity. Because if I had told myself what I'm telling you, I would like, whatever. You know, I wouldn't have followed it. You know, older people were just boring.
Yeah.
You know, eat your peas, brush your teeth. Like,
Yeah.
man, I don't want to hear that. You know, no one ever wants to hear what an old person has to say
Yeah.
about,
Well,
especially when you're young, because being youthful and dangerous is an absolute asset to being an artist.
so that
You
was
know,
the actually you like went ahead of myself. Like that was the next question, which is, what would you advise, or what would you tell the young Martin Campos at the age of 30, maybe 25 or 30 or 35? What would that be? If you could talk to him, what would you say?
brush your teeth more. Don't eat so many pastries. Watch your stomach.
Yeah.
If I could, I would tell him that. But no, in terms of being an artist, just if I'm really imagining if he was right here, what I would tell him. No, just keep doing what you're doing, man. Everything's going to be okay. You know, you're on the right path. And again, I think the Martin would probably not listen to the old Martin because the younger Martin would be stubborn. I really mean that. When people tell me that, like, what would you tell a young artist? And this is not meant to diminish your your question to me, but I think in general, when someone tells me, what would you tell a young artist? What kind of advice would you give them? I say, don't listen to this old man that's giving you advice.
That's a good one.
Because, you know, young people don't want to hear that shit. Sorry,
Yeah.
I curse.
Yeah,
They don't
no
want to
problem.
hear that. And they never will. I mean, we were young. We had our parents tell us that we didn't listen,
Yeah.
you know, and we turned out okay. You know, there's that's the thing about being young is like, yeah, you're stupid and you're ignorant, but those are the great things. Those are the things that make you the artist that you are. You know, the knuckleheadedness, the stupidity, falling on your face and making act. I wouldn't tell a young person any advice. I would just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't listen to me. Follow your road. You know, I think the only advice would be like practical shit. You know, like eat better, brush your teeth. Uh, you know, draw a little bit more.
Mm.
Spend a little bit more time drawing. Uh, read good books. Go to a lot of parties. Make the best sex. Eat the best chocolate. Those are the things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
make your life interesting. You know, and a lot of the things wouldn't be about drawing and painting. It's about living your life. You know, if you're gonna go, and if you want that piece of chocolate that's like another $3, go get it. You know, go to Europe. I don't have enough. Just go. You can do it. You know, do those things, and you know it will make, you know, the best artists are the ones who lead a life that is fun.
Yeah.
You know, remember Alex Kanevsky's wife, Hollis Heichner. She's a great painter herself. I think even better than Alex, actually. Hope he hears that. He probably would agree, but
yeah, we'll make sure he does.
Yeah. He's a far better, a far more kind of, you know. But I remember she said something to the effect that just read books, the best books you can read, and it's going to make you a much more interesting artist in person if you do that. So I would tell Martin that, you know. Again, I keep expanding on this one question you ask, but I think that it wouldn't be about art. I wouldn't arrest any kind of notion that a young art. Just be who you are. Don't listen to anybody's advice but yourself, and make your life interesting, because you know you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be an artist, but you'll be an even richer artist if you just kind of be yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to see things, and you finally answered the question, and it's a very nice answer. So okay, yeah,
because if I had told Martin, he would have followed exactly what the old Martin would have done, and he wouldn't have developed.
I know
he really wouldn't have. He would have been afraid. Yeah, you're gonna go to Africa when you're in your 30s. I was like, no, I'm not, and I wouldn't have done it. Seriously, dude, I would not. If I had known that I was going to do the things that I did, I wouldn't have done them.
Yeah.
So the unknown is the biggest asset that an artist could have.
Yeah.
Biggest. If you don't know what the hell your life is going to be like, that's what makes you an artist.
Nice, beautiful. So
I could walk out of the studio and get hit by a car. I don't know, but it'll be okay.
Yeah. No,
I don't want it to happen.
Hope not. Yeah. So okay, so we've been speaking for an hour now. I think, as I told you before, there must be a lot of people asking, who you are, what do you think, asking about your stuff, your art, your thoughts. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask you questions and to let you to hear you talk, to know who you are. I think it's for me it means a lot, and I'm sure there will be more people like me. So again, big honor to be able to talk to you.
It's my honor that you wanted me to.
No, please.
It's my passion to tell people that it's absolutely the most amazing thing to be a creative being. I'm just one of many, many, many. And for you to give me that opportunity to kind of poke my head out of a little hole and say, it's good.
Beautiful.
I'm doing it. You should do it too. It's worth it. Okay, and then I poke my head back in the hole. And there's all these other great artists out there. I'm just so honored that you chose me. Beautiful, and for anybody who's listening, thank you.
Yeah. So I will share, of course, all your links, your Instagram account. I know you are doing a new course, an online course, so I'm going to share that link too.
Yeah.
I will share
definitely.
And help every way I can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Of course. So Martin, big honor. Thank you so much for everything. And big hug from Argentina. Okay,
well,
thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Juan. We'll see you, and let me know if you need any more help.
Big pleasure, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.